show you how to make this embellished right angle weave V necklace. Now, this was a requested video. One of my beading friends named Joan made this design actually. She did a right angle weave and embellished it. She sent me a picture of the finished necklace. This is that picture. And with that picture, she asked me if I would do a tutorial of her necklace, which I agreed that I would do. Now, I have changed it somewhat. This video is inspired by that necklace. It's not exactly the same. She used a 2-needle method, started at the tip and worked her way up, and then did her embellishments. She used 11 O's in her embellishments. I think she may have even put an 11 O between the units. Now, I didn't do all that because I didn't want to stiffen up the embellishments, and because I had to figure out my own thread path, because I use 1 needle right angle weave. I don't like to use 2 threads. It's not a bad thing, I just don't like to do it very often. So if I can do 1 needle, I will. So I have done my own thread path basically, and I did my embellishments a little bit differently and in a little different angle. Other than that, it's exactly the same thing. It's a basic right angle weave embellished with crystal. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started on this. I will show you what beads it takes, and we'll make ourselves a nice shiny sparkly necklace, and we're going to name it Joan's necklace since it is Joan's idea. Okay, let's get going. Okay, since I am working off a picture that was sent to me, I am just going to kind of design this as I make it, or it's not so much design it, but figure out what she did as I make it. It is a basic right angle weave that's been embellished, and it's been put into a V shape. She did this with 2 threads. I, as everyone knows, don't like to work with 2 threads. If I don't have to, I will, but if I don't have to, I won't. So I am going to modify her design that she made, her basic thread path. I'm going to modify it for 1 needle. And then I may add some embellishments to her core. She also did not add a clasping to the back of it, and I may change that also. So it's going to be her basic design with my thread path. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I'm going to put together this necklace that she sent me a picture of, and that way there will be a tutorial of her pretty little necklace. And this is what we're going to use. We're going to use 4mm bicone crystals in 2 colors. She used a clear and black. I'm going to use a clear and red. I'm going to also use, and both of these are 4mm Swarovski crystals. One is a clear and one is just your cherry red here. And then we're going to use 11O seed beads, a lot of 11O seed beads. So there will be this is an 11O Toho. Make sure that you have quite a few. Start with at least 10 grams. I don't know exactly how many I'm going to use because I haven't done this yet, but I know that it'll take a lot. I don't know exactly how many crystals, but I will put that in caption for you. And then we are going to use a toggle clasp also. So that's what we'll need to get started. And as I said, I'm going to do this kind of off the top of my head, so bear with me. So thread onto your needle. You'll need a size 10 beading needle, and 8-pound fireline crystal is what I'm using. And I'm going to start with a fairly good length. You may want to start with a full 2 wingspans, and because it's going to take at least that much and more. So go ahead and thread your needle, and then let's get started on the right angle weave portion of this. And like I said, she started from the V part because she used 2 threads, and then she could go back and finish the other half of the V. I'm not going to do that. I want to start from the top, work my way down, work into my V, and then I am going to do the ends. So we're going to start by picking up 8 11O seed beads onto our needle. If they'll go on my needle, 6, 7, 8. So this is what I have, 8 11O seed beads on my needle. We're going to bring them down to the end of our thread, Leave yourself a fairly decent sized tail, 12 to 16 inches, whatever you want to, whatever you need for your clasping. You will need at least 12. I like to leave a little bit more if I can, or I leave enough to extend it so that I can have quite a bit of thread to put my clasp on. Now, you're just going to come back up through all 8 of these beads, just like this. Hold on to your thread, hold on to your beads, and pull your needle through into a circle like this. Now we're going to go back into these beads, and I'm just going to sew all the way around all of them. I'm going to do 2 beads at a time as I sew through because I want to make this into a little square. So if you do 2 beads at a time, it helps get your little shape that you want for your right angle weave here. Try to avoid my tail. And that is what we have here. You can see we have 8 beads, and we've gone all the way around past our tail. Now I want to work out of 2 beads at a time. So if I want to start my right angle weave here, I need to sew up 4 beads. So I'm going to sew up 2 at a time. I'm going to sew here. I just want to get away from my tail is what I'm trying to do. Right here. I'm going to make this 3 units wide. So I'm going to make 3 units of right angle weave using 2 beads to attach to. Each unit will have 8 beads. So I'm coming out of these 2. This will be part of my next unit, so I will need 6 beads onto my thread, and I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the side that my opposite that my thread is coming out. So go back into these 2 beads here and pull the thread around like this. Now we have 2 units. We need to get over to these 2 beads so that we can add 1 more unit because we're going to go 3 wide. So we're going to go over here through 2 beads and then through 2 more beads. And we need to make another unit, and because we already have 2 beads we're going to work out of, we will only pick up 6 beads. So pick up 6 beads onto your needle. Now you're coming out of this side. We're going to go into the opposite side and pull our thread through. Just like that. Now we need to work down to the bottom because we're going to be 3 beads wide, and then we're going to work our length quite a ways down. So we need to get down to these bottom beads now to work our next one. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to sew up 2 beads here, 2 beads here, flip it back over, and sew down these 2 beads right here. Now I'm going to start a new unit going this way. So I'm going to pick up 6 beads because I have 2 on my unit. So I will pick up 6. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side and pull my beads in. Just like this. Now I want to work another unit here. So I'll use these 2 beads and these 2 beads on this unit in order to make my next unit. So I will have 4, and all I'll need to do is pick up 4. But first I need to get in position. So I need to put my needle into these 2 beads right here. I'm going to come up these 2 here, like this. And I'm going to add my 4 beads and then come into these 2 and then back out these 2. So that will make my next unit. So I'm going to pick up 4 beads to complete my 8 beads in my unit. I'm going to attach to these 2, pull, Then I'm going to come out these two right here, right here, and then I'm going to go down. I want to get down here to make another one, so I'm going to sew down these beads and into these two beads. So sew here, and now I want to make a unit here, so I need these two beads, so I'll go into them. I'm going to go into the two beads on this unit here, and then I have 4 beads already on my unit, here and here on my thread even, so now I'm going to pick up 4 more to finish my unit. Okay, so I'm going to come up through these two here, then I'm going to go down through these two here, and that connects the entire unit. Now I need to work up to these two on top so that I can make my next unit, my next row. So we have 2 rows now. I'm going to go through these 2 beads. You always have to follow your original thread path. You can't cross, so you have to sew around till you get where you want to be. Now I want to go up these 2 so I can start my next row. In my first unit, I will need 6 beads because I'm only sharing 2 from my previous row here. So I will pick up 6 beads onto my needle, and I'm coming out here. I'm going to go in here like this. Now I need to make a unit sharing these 2 beads and these 2 beads. Since I'm coming out here, I can't go straight into these 2 beads, or there'll be a big piece of thread through there, and we don't want that. So we're going to go up these 2 side beads right here, pull them tight. Make sure your tension is good on this, because if not, your weave will be a mess. And then pick up, and these will straighten out when we embellish them too. Right now they're a little wobbly, but they will straighten out. Now we're going to use these 2 beads. We're going to add 4 here, come through these 2, and come back through here. So since we have 4, we'll pick up 4. We're going to go into these 2 beads right here, just like this. Then we're going to turn so we can get to it a little better. Come back through the 2 beads we started in. This will also kind of straighten out your weave as it gets all pulled funny. Come through there. Now, notice I'm only sewing through 2 beads at a time. That kind of helps straighten out my weave. And then I'm going to add another unit here. I'm coming out right here. I need these 2 beads and these 2 beads, so I'm going to go ahead and go through these 2. Then I'm going to go through these 2. As you do this, the weave, if you're not familiar with right angle weave, the weave will become more and more obvious. Pick up 2 more. Well, actually we need 4 because we're going to use this set of 2, this set of 2, so we need 4 to make our 8. We're coming out here, we're going to go into here. Up through here, and then through the front 2, because we need to get over to the very front beads right here so that we can make another row. So we're going to sew down into here. We're going to do 1 more row, and then we'll continue until we have, I don't know how many, but I'll tell you when I get there. But we'll go to the length where we will then make our V. So we're coming out of these 2 beads right here. We need, when we start a new row, we need 6 beads because we only have 2 that we're sharing. So pick up, excuse me, pick up 2 beads, and go down into the bead on your unit here, the 2 beads that you're coming out of, like this. Now you started your new row. Now we need to come up into the side beads here so we can build the next unit. So we'll go up into the 2 side beads on your new unit right here. Now we're going to share these beads and these beads, but we need 4 beads to get there. So we're coming out here. We have to build this half of our little squares. So we're going to pick up 2 walls for our square. So 2 beads and then 2 more beads. So 4 beads in total. We're coming out here. We're going to come into this set of beads here. And then up through the 2 on the side here. Then we need to get back down to these so that we can add this one. So we'll go through the 2 on the front here. If I can pick them up, there we go. Like this. The 2 on the bottom. Like this. And the 2 here, because we need to share these 2. So we'll pick up them. And now we have this wall and this wall, so now we need to pick up 2 for here and 2 for here, and then come all the way back around to connect them. So we're going to pick up 4 beads onto our needle, like this. We're going to go through this one here, pull them tight, go through the 2 here. Now we need to get back to the front so we can add another row. So we'll go through these 2, and then we will go through these 2. And now we are ready to do our next row. Of course, we'll start with our 6 beads, and then we'll share beads in the previous units we make, and we'll just continue making 3 rows of right angle weave until we have 43 units. You will count from the beginning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down until you have 43 units. So it would be actually 43 rows of 3 units is what it will be. So you'll have 43 rows, and you'll be exiting here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to build off these 3 rows, and we're going to build this direction. This way, instead of coming out forward like we have been, making a straight row, this way we will now form a V. So instead of starting in the middle, using 2 threads and making your V shape and then using 1 thread to go this way and 1 thread to go this way, we're just building a row here, and then we're going to go up this way and make our V. So what we're going to do now, let's get close so you can see, I'm coming out of this little 2 beads on the bottom here after finishing my last unit. I'm going to sew up into the 2 side beads. These were my bottom at one time. This is where I would have gone forward. Now I'm going to go into the side beads right here. And I'm going to start just like I did before. When you start a new row, you have to pick up 6 beads. So you pick up 6 seed beads, like this, onto your needle. And you're coming out of this side of your 2 little beads here on the side of the rows that you created. You're going to go into the opposite side and form a box right here, just like this. So see now how I am going up this way? I'm going to form a V this way now. Now I need to make my second box. So I'm going to sew up into the side beads. All I did was flip it over. I'm going to sew into the 2 side beads here. Turn it back over. And I'm going to use these 2 beads here and these 2 beads here for my next unit. So I'm going to pick up 4 now because I have 4 on my piece that I will use for my next unit. So I'll pick up 4 11 seed beads. I'm coming out of this side of this unit. I'm going to go into the top of this unit to form a square. So I'm going to go into these 2 beads here, right here, and down. Then I'm going to turn it just so I can get better access. I'm going to come up into the 2 beads that I'm connecting to, right here. And then I'm just going to go, I have to get over here to make my last unit. So I am going to sew up. I'm coming out of these 2. I'm going to sew up into these 2. Just sewing around until I can get to where I can add my next 4 beads to make my next unit of 8. So now I'm going to sew into these 2 right here. Oops, I just pulled it. So I'll just pull it back. Then I have to sew up into these 2 right here. So all I've done is I'm doing the exact same thing as I did all the way down for my 43 units. Now I'm just going a different direction. That's all I'm doing. So I'm going to add 4 more beads onto my needle. I'm going to use these 2 beads and these 2 beads in my next unit. I'm coming out here, so I'm going to go into the 2 beads here to form my next square. Pull them down. I'll sew up into the 2 that are connecting me to my previous units. And now I need to get over to this side so I can start another row here. So I just need to sew through these 2 beads on top. I'm just going to flip it gently so that I can get to it better. Go through these 2 beads here. And then I'm going to turn it back over and go through these 2 top beads right here. Now you can see I have formed my B right here. Now I'm just going to build this direction, just like we did on this side. So I'm going to start my next row. I'm coming out of the bottom here. Every time you start a new row, or it's coming out of these 2 beads here, every time you start a new row, you will pick up 6 beads because you're only attaching to 2. And each unit has 8, so we will pick up 6 beads. We're coming out of the 2 right here. We're going to go into the opposite side of these 2 and go through them like this. Pull the needle through like this. Then we need to make another unit here, so we'll use these 2 beads and these 2 beads. So we're just going to sew up into these 2 beads so that our needle is in the proper, or our thread is in the right position, whichever way you want to look at it. And now we are going to pick up 4 because we've got these 2 beads and these 2 beads we're sharing. So we're going to pick up 4 seed beads like this. We're coming out of here. We're going to go into here, the unit on the piece already. Pull our 4 beads around, and now we have to come up into these 2 beads that we started in order to finish our unit. So we'll go up into these 2 right here. Now we have to sew, we're coming out right here, we have to sew back down into these 2 bottom beads so we can make our last unit. So we're going to sew down here, then we're going to sew into here, and we need to sew down into these 2 so we can form the rest of our box here. So we're going to go into these 2 right here, and we're going to pick up 4 more beads, as we will use these 2 and these 2. So we're coming out here, we're going to go into here, And then we're going to sew back down the unit to get to the outside beads here, just like this. Now you have another row. So we're going to start another row. We've got to start in these 2 beads here, so we have to come up into them. When you start a new row, you pick up 6 beads because you're only attaching to 2 and you need 8 in your unit. So you will pick up 6 beads like this. You're coming out of this side of the 2 beads you're attaching to. You're going to go into the opposite side. You're going to pull your beads around like this. Now we need to sew up into these 2 beads here to finish and tighten, secure our unit, and start our next unit. So I'm just going to gently turn it over so I can get to those 2 beads. I'm going to go up into them. I'm going to turn my work back over. And now I have this set of beads and this set of beads that will form my next 4 walls of my unit. So I need to pick up the other 2 walls. So I'll pick up 4 beads to finish my 8 beads in my unit. I'm coming out here. I will come into here, the one on the unit. To finish and secure it, I will have to go into these 2 beads here, just like this. Then I will sew up into the beads until I get all the way to the side that will form my next unit. Now I'll have to go up into these 2 right here, and then I will add 4 more beads to finish my next unit. And then we will just continue making rows of 3 until you have 40 on this side also. So we had 43, but let me show you. I'll show you how I count them. So it will be 43 on this side too also. It's just that you only need to make 40 because you started with 3 here. So what you will do is you will count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until you have 43 on this side. But you will start from the very tip of the V when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we already have six rows, but we only made 3. But we have to count the 3 in here too in order to make our necklace even. So, like I said, count from the corner all the way to the end, make 43 rows, and we will be back. Okay, so I have done my 43 units on this side. Count from the very tip of the V to the very last row of 3 here. And just count the outside boxes, the little spaces in between. Or, of course, you can count the 2 beads on the outside, however you want to do it. Just make sure you have 43 on this side, counting from the V. Now, the issue I have here is when Joan sent me the picture of her design that she asked me to do a tutorial on, she did not have a clasping done. Now, the V wants to lay straight like this in a V. I have to draw it somehow around the neck. So what I'm going to try to do is draw this end in here and then make an extension to go around the neck. So we're going to work on that right now. So let me get you closer here. I am coming out of the very last unit here, the top 2 beads, after making my last unit in my row of 3 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, 2 11-0 seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 2 11-0 seed beads. So this is what I have on my needle. Now I'm coming out of this end, the top 2 here. I'm going to go to the other end of my row here and go into the opposite end of the beads here and just the 2 on the very end. And I'm going to pull this through like this. Now I have these little spaces between my beads on top here. I want to straighten them out and firm them up, so I'm going to place a little 11-0 between the 3 units here. So there's a little space right here. I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and I'm going to go into the next 2 beads and only the next 2 beads. And I'm going to pop that little 11-0 down in there. And then I'm going to pick up another 11-0 seed bead like this. I am going to put it between these 2 units here, and these ones are kind of crooked, but once I do this it'll straighten it out. So I'm going to just pick up the last 2 in my last unit in my row of 3 here and pop that little 11-0 seed bead down in there just like that. Now I'm going to turn this over just so I can get to it better. I'm going to sew up these 2 11-0 seed beads here and the bicone crystal and the 2 middle seed beads and exit. Pull my thread through, and then make sure that you have extended your fire line at this point or whatever. Make sure you have quite a bit of thread, because as we work through this extension and then down into our embellishments, we'll need a lot of thread. So now we're exiting right here. So we're going to make some single units here now. So we're going to do the same thing we were doing in these little boxes, but we're just going to make 1 unit at a time. So we're going to have to pick up 6 seed beads on each one. So we're going to use these 2 in our unit. So we need 6 more to make 8. So I'm going to pick up 6 on my needle like this. And I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side, just up the 2 seed beads here. If I can pick them up. There we go. Just like that. And then I'm going to pull my thread through. Now I have 1 unit. I'm going to turn it back over so I can get to it better. And I'm going to sew. I'm coming out the bottom right here. I'm going to sew up into 2. And then up into 2 more. And then I'm going to pick up 6 more seed beads and make another unit. Now this is the way that you will determine the length of your necklace, how far you want it to lay on your neck. I'm going to do like 6 units and see how that looks. So I'm going to pick up 6 more seed beads. And I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side. Now with these, if you feel like your units are loose, you can sew back through all of them several times. But we have to sew back down to get to our embellishments anyway, so I'm going to try to just do it 1 time. Now I've made my unit. I'm going to sew back up to the top. And then sew back into the top 2 beads here. Just 2 at a time, so that it forms a square, the best I can anyway. And then I will add 6 more seed beads and make another unit. Let's do 1 more, and then we'll do a few off camera. So let's pick up 6 more seed beads. 3. Like this. We're coming out of this side. Let's go into the opposite side. The 2 seed beads on the top of the unit here. And pull our thread through. Just like that. Now whoops, I was out of camera. Let me back off. Okay, so now we're going to continue making 6 to 10 of these, however many you feel like you need. I'll do 6 and see what it looks like. If it looks like I need more than that, probably we'll need 10. Let's just do 10, and then we'll be back. So I'm going to sew back up through these 2 side beads, and then through my 2 top beads, and I will make 10 individual units. And then I will be back. Alright, so I've made my 10 single units here. I'm going to attempt to put my clasp on now, and then we'll embellish down these and then start our main embellishment. So let's get to the top here. We're coming out of this side of the bead right here. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads. and then a crystal like this, and then one more 11-0 just to protect the thread against that crystal here. So 2 11-0s, a crystal, and an 11-0. And then you're going to pick up one end of your clasp, and we're going to drop it down the thread here. Now we are going to go back into, let's get a little closer, I rearrange this again. We're going to drop it down here at the clasp, and then we're going to go back into the 11-0 and the crystal, just the 11-0 and the crystal underneath the clasp here, and pull the clasp down like this. Now you could use a wire protector here if you'd like to. That would be fine, but I didn't include it in my materials list, so I didn't want to just spring it on you guys. But you could use a wire protector here and then attach a jump ring and a clasp. But I'm going to sew through this enough times to where I'll secure it and keep it pretty good. So now you're going to, now that you've come through the 11-0 and the crystal, now you're going to pick up 2 more 11-0s, and you're going to go back through the top 2 11-0s on your last unit here, just like this, and pull through. And this is what your clasping should look like. It's like that. Now you're going to sew back up through all of this several times, and then after you have done that, secured it to the point to where you feel like it's nice and secure and it's not going to wear the thread on the clasp or anything. Okay, we'll be back. So I have sewn through this several times to make sure it's nice and secure. I do wish I would have put a wire protector on there, but if you do, we've done it enough times on other necklaces, you can look at it and see how it's done if you don't know how. But if you do, you can just either put your clasp on your wire protector and sew it through, or you can put your wire protector on, sew it through just like we did the clasp, and then add a jump ring and then add your clasp. So now we're coming out of this section of beads here after securing our little unit for our clasping. So now what I'm going to do, I'm coming out here, I'm going to start embellishments, just a single embellishment all the way down this little chain we've just made. So I'm going to use clear because I don't have as many red as I do clear. So I'm going to make sure I have enough red for my entire necklace by doing this portion in clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up a bicone crystal. I'm coming out of this side of my 11-0s, right here. I am going to go to the opposite set of 11-0s in the bottom of the unit and go into the opposite side of them, like this. Picked up a bicone crystal, and I'm just going to pull that bicone crystal down into a little angle here, just like that, right on top of my unit. Now I'm coming out of this side here of this unit. So I'm going to pick up a bicone crystal. I'm coming out of this side. I'm going to go into the opposite side, on the opposite side of the unit, just like this. And I am going to pull my crystal down. Now when you pull it down, position it and have some pretty good tension on it. Make sure that it looks nice, just like that. Now we're going to do this unit, so we're going to pick up a bicone crystal, and we're coming out of this end, we're going to go into this end on the opposite side of the unit. Pick up the 2 beads on the opposite end of the unit and pull your crystal down into the middle of the unit and secure it, just like that. Let's do it one more time. Pick up a crystal. My son is sneezing. Sorry, guys. Okay. We're going to exit. We're exiting here. We're going to go into the opposite side. And just pull that crystal down. Okay. And then you can see how that's going to look. I finished my little embellishments on my extension here. I came through my last one, and then I sewed through this crystal here, these 2 seed beads. I'm coming out of these 2 seed beads right here. I'm going to go down into the first 2 seed beads of my first unit. Just these 2 right here, not the one that I popped in between them. Just like this. Now I'm ready to start my crystal embellishments. Now I'm going to do a row of clear on the outside, a row of red on the inside, and a row of clear on the outside. I'm going to start with my clear row. So I'm just going to pick up a bicone crystal. I'm coming out of this side of my beads right here. I'm going to go into the opposite beads of the unit on the opposite side right here. And I'm just going to pull my thread through and pull my crystal down into a little diagonal here, just like this. Then I'm going to pick up another crystal. I'm coming out of this side of the unit. I'm going to go into the opposite beads in the opposite side of the unit, like that. And again, I will pick up a crystal, and I will just go all the way around my necklace doing this embellishment on just this row. So here I am coming out here. I am going to go into this side, just like this, and pull my crystal down. And again, into the opposite side of the opposite beads in the unit. Pull it down. Make sure there's no slack in this thread. Everything needs to be nice and tight and neat, or you'll see a lot of thread, or your crystals will not look like they're set down inside the units, and you want them to look set down inside. So you're just going to pull from opposite side of the unit, the opposite side of the beads. Here again, I'm coming out here, go into here. The opposite beads of the unit in the opposite side that I'm exiting from. Just like that. And I'm going to continue doing this the entire length of my necklace. And when I get to the middle, I will show you how to get through the middle. It's basically the same thing, but I'll go all the way to the V, we'll come back, then we'll go all the way up to the other side of the end in the same row. Okay, so I've done my entire side. I am to the V now with my crystals here. Now, as I'm coming through, I put this one on by going into these 2 beads here. You can see I came out here, I went down into these 2 beads here, so now I'm coming out of these 2 here. And in order to put this one on, if I went from here to here, then I'd have to work my way back up, and my bead would be laying kind of funny. I want it to lay up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from here. I'm going to sew down into these 2 right here in my corner. Right here. Pull my thread through. Now I'm going to pick up my crystal. Now I'm coming out of these 2 right here. These 2 are my opposite, so I'm going to go into these 2 here, my opposite beads, in the opposite side. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go into this side and pull my crystal down. And you see now, that places it straight up and down. So now we're coming out of these 2 little beads right here after placing our center bead. Now this one is a little different because we need our beads to face a little bit, we need them to face in this way. These are coming in like this, kind of down and in at a diagonal this way. We need them to do the opposite thing on this side. So we're coming out of these 2. Now we have to sew down into the bottom one right here, the bottom 2 beads in the unit here, right here. And now we're going to pick up our crystal, and we're going to go into the opposite 2 beads. Those are right here in the opposite direction, right here. and see if I can pull it through. There we go. And now you can see that we have the opposite direction. So they're all laying in a perfect little V there. But the thing is now it's a little bit different. So let's go through here. We have to go down here. Now we have to do a little bit more sewing instead of just going from one to the other like we were doing. We were just going from here to here. So let me see, because that will put it the wrong direction. So what we have to do now is we have to sew down into this one here, down into these two little bottom ones here. So we have to sew down these two and then down into these two here. And we will pick up our crystal. We're coming out of these two here in the bottom of the unit. We're going to go into the two in the top of the unit. Now let me turn this a little bit. My hands are just not in the right position. So I'm coming out of the two bottom here, right here. I'm going to go into the opposite side and the opposite beads in the unit. So now instead of going from side to side, I'm going from top to bottom of the unit. I'm going to pull my crystal in to place. Just like that. So now, let me see if I can get in a better position here. There we go. So now my crystals are all facing this way. And to continue doing that, instead of just going, like I said, from side to side, we have to do a little bit more sewing. So we're going to go down into this one here, down into the bottom beads here, then we're going to pick up our crystal and we're going to go into the top beads on the opposite side in the opposite direction and pull it down. And again, we're going to sew down into the side beads, down into the bottom of the unit, right here. Then we're going to pick up our crystal and we're going to go into the top beads this way. Opposite beads, opposite direction. Just like that. So again, sew down, you're coming out these top beads, sew down into these two side beads right here. Then sew down into the bottom of the unit, right here. Pick up your crystal, sew into the bottom beads, this way. Just like that. And keep going till you get to the end of the necklace. And we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished the second half of my necklace, putting my first row of crystal on. Now I am coming out of this crystal right here. I'm coming out of the top beads on the inside of my necklace. Now I need to sew down so that I can start my next row, and my next row will be red, and I still want the same angle that I have here. I'm going in this sort of diagonal this way, so I want my bead to lay across my unit this way. So what I'm going to do is go down these two beads right here. I'm coming out of this very end, top two beads. I'm going to come down into these two, right underneath it. Now your tail is on this side, so it might get in your way a little bit. Then you're going to come down into the top of the unit that we're going to use, or the bottom of the previous unit right here, into these two beads right here. Pull your needle through. That's a little thread tight. Now I'm going to pick up my bicone crystal, like this, And I'm coming out of this side of these two beads. I'm going to go down into this side of these two beads right here. And I'm going to pull my needle through. Make sure my crystal goes down nice and neat. Looks like I have a thread tingle. No, I don't. No, I don't. Okay. Just like this. And that's how that should look. So now I'm coming out of these two beads here. I'm going to sew into these two right here. Then I'm going to go into the top two of the unit I'm working on, the bottom two of the previous unit, right here. So now I'm exiting these two beads right here. I'm going to pick up my crystal. I'm coming out of these two beads. I'm going to go into the opposite side in the opposite beads right here. And bring my crystal down. Just like that. Let's do a couple more and then we can do the whole row till we get to the V. So let's pick up, first we're coming out here. We need to sew up these two beads here, into these two beads here. Excuse me. And then we are going to go down. We're coming out here. We're going to go down into these beads here. And pull. Bring your crystal down. And you can see these are laying in the right direction. Everything's going nice and smoothly. And your crystals won't be all different directions. So now we're coming out here. We're going to go up into these two right here. And then into these two here. And then we'll pick up our crystal. Go into the opposite beads in the opposite side that you're exiting from. And pull the crystal down. Just like that. So just continue doing that. We'll then sew up into here. And then into these two beads here, and I'll go ahead and place my next crystal. Now go ahead and do this until we get down to the V, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my entire side with my red, doing my one row. Now I'm in the towards the V here, right here. I'm one bead away from the very tip of the V here. So I'm going to do this next bead exactly how I've been doing the others. So I'm coming out here from putting this one in, right here. I'm going to sew up the side, through the top, and then I'm going to grab my crystal, this. I'm coming out here, I'm going to go in here. And then, after coming out right here, I'm going to sew into this side right here, right in here. I am going to pick up my crystal. If it'll pick up, sometimes they just argue with me. Here we go. So I've got my crystal. I'm coming out here. I'm going to find the opposite beads and go into the opposite side. So I'm coming out here. I'm going to go in here in these beads right here. Just like this. And pull it down. And now this one's standing up straight. Now I've got to get these beads going this way again. Since these beads on our corner here are tipping in, we want to make sure that we tip in. So now we're going to go up this side. We came out right here. We're going to go in here. We're going to pick up a red crystal, get some over here. So we're coming out here. We're going to find right here we're going to find the opposite beads in the opposite side right here and go in. And now this one is going this way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work my way up the other side. Let me back off a little bit here. So this side is a little easier because all you have to do is come out this side and then go into the opposite side instead of sewing around to get your thread in position. So I'm right here, coming out of these two beads right here. I'm going to go into the opposite beads on the opposite side right here. And I'm going to pull my crystal down. And now you can see it's laying exactly the same way as the bead above it, and that's what we want. So now I'm going to pick up my next one, and I'm coming out here, I'm going to go in here. This side moves a lot faster because you don't have to sew around to get the right angle for your bead. So I'm coming out here now and pick out a bead, a crystal, go into the opposite side over here in the opposite end and pull just like that. And so we're just going to continue doing this all the way up this side until we get to the end, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've done my entire row on this side now, and now I am coming out right here. I have one last bead to put on. So I'm coming out of the top here. I'm going to pick up my little crystal and I'm going to go into the opposite side. Now up here is where we put extra beads in, so you just want to go into the two of the unit and just ignore those little extra beads on either side, just like this, and pull it through like that. Now we have to get down to this bottom row here so that we can start our row of embellishments with our clear crystal. So I'm coming out of these two little beads right here in the top. I'm going to sew into these two here on the side here, right here. Then I'm going to sew down into these two right there. Then into these two here. And then down into the two on the top. Again, you need to avoid, I have so much thread through here already that I really need to try to avoid the other beads here. Yeah, this is a little tight here. I'm just going to push it through and pull it through. Trying not to break my beads here. Actually, I think there was a connection knot in there. So there we go. Now you're coming out here. Now we're going to go, nope, we're going to pick up a crystal, and now we're going to start with our clear crystals again. So we're coming out of these two beads here. We're going to pick up a crystal, and then we're going to go into the opposite beads on the opposite side. So here are the opposite two beads. Of course, this little unit is kind of weird looking, but as I said before, your crystal will straighten it out. So go into the opposite beads on the opposite side and pull your crystal through. And now you can see my crystal is laying in the right direction with the others, and I can just work my way through again. On this side, it's easy because you just come out of one side and go into the other side. You don't have to sew around your unit. So we're coming out here. We're going to go into the opposite beads in the unit on the opposite side that we're exiting from, like this. Now we'll pick up another and do the same thing again. We're exiting here, we're going to go into the opposite beads. And we're going to do this until we get to the V, and then we'll have to change directions again and sew a little differently. So go ahead and do this all the way to the V, and we'll be back. Okay, so now I have finished this entire side down to the tip of the V here. So let's get to the tip of the V right here. Now I'm coming out of these two little beads right here. Let's see if we can get a little closer here. Coming out of these two little beads right here after having gone through my two beads connecting my last little crystal here. So I'm coming out here. Now I need to come into these two beads on the bottom right here, just like this. And now I'm going to pick up my crystal. And then I have to find the opposite beads of these two, which are right here. So I'm going to go into these two right here and pull my crystal down. And now that lays my crystal, so you can see, straight up and down. All three of these I want straight up and down. Now this side I have to get the same angle as these beads here. So again, we're going to have to sew around our units a little bit here. So I am going to sew into here, right here, and then I'm going to pick up my crystal, and I'm going to sew opposite side. So I'm coming out of these two bottom ones right here, right there. I'm going to go into the opposite side, right here. And this little thread tied also, so I'm going to pull this through as gently as I can. There we go. And now my bead is lying just the way I want it to. So now these are the ones that you have to sew around a little bit. So we are coming out of this top bead here, so we're going to sew down into these side beads right here. Then we're going to go into these two bottom beads right here. Then we're going to pick up our crystal, and we're going to go into the opposite beads in the opposite side right here. Right here. Then we're coming out of these two little beads right here in the top. So we're going to sew down these two little side beads. Let me turn my work. We're going to sew down these two little side beads right here into the bottom beads. Once you get into the bottom beads, then you will pick up your crystal and you will go into the opposite side in the opposite beads right here. Let me back off a little bit. And we'll do this one more time. So we're going down, we're coming out of these two little top beads now. We're going to go down into the side beads, then we'll go into the bottom beads right here. Pull our thread through and pick up a crystal. When you're in the bottom beads, then you know it's time to pick up your crystal and then go into the opposite side of the opposite beads in the unit and pull your little crystal through. One more time. Go up through these two right here and then into the outside bottom beads here. And then you'll put your crystal on. And you'll move this way, all the way up to the end of the necklace, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my entire last embellishment on this side here. Now, what I have decided, as you'll see, I'm coming out right where my tail is. What I've decided is I'll just sew my tail back in and cut it off. I have extended my fire line during my embellishments and have a whole lot left. So I'm going to do my extension and my clasping with my working thread. Now, if your working thread is shorter, you can tie it off and either extend your tail or use your tail, depending upon how much you left, to do your extension and your clasping. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to ignore my tail for the moment because I will sew it back in later. And then I will cut it off. So I'm coming out with my working thread. Let's see, that's my tail. So my working thread is right here. And I'm coming out of this little side bead here. So what I need to do is work my way around so that I can put my 3 little beads between my 3 little 11-ohs between my units here again. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to sew through these 2 here. I'm coming out in the middle here. I need to turn myself around. Now I could sew all the way down and try to work myself around until my threads go in the right direction, but I've decided just to put a little half hitch knot right here in the corner so you can see what I'm doing. Let's get a little bit closer. So I've just come through the top beads and I'm just going to put a little half hitch knot right here on the thread bridge right in the corner here. Then I'm going to sew back through the 2 beads I just exited right here. I'm going to pick up, and pull my thread through, I'm going to pick up an 11-oh, put it between the 2 units here, go into the next unit. Pop that little bead down there, pick up another one, another little 11-oh, and I'm going to pop it between these 2 units right here. Now I have to make my extension, so I'll pick up 2 11-oh seed beads, a bicone crystal, 2 11-oh seed beads, a bicone crystal, and 2 11-oh seed beads, like this. Now I'm coming out of this side. I am going to go into the opposite side and I'm going to sew through all of these beads. Now I have to kind of get around that knot we made, so go through there, and I'm going to go through all the beads including the ones I just added. If I can get them all at once. If I can't, I'll have to do it in 2 trips, and it's going to take 2. So I will go through, then I will go through these 2 that I missed, like this, and pull this down. Now I have my little extension. I'm going to sew up into the 2 11-oh seed beads in the middle of the crystals here. I'm only through one, so I have to go through the other one right here. Now this is where I will start my single units. So I'll pick up 6 11-oh seed beads, and I will start making 10 single units. 5, 6, okay. And so I'm coming out this side, I'm going to come through this side, go through both the beads here. I'm in a funny position. There we go. And then I'll sew up to the top, and we will do the clasping and everything exactly like we did the other side. So go ahead and make your 10 units, put your clasp on, come back down and embellish it, and then come through your crystals, sew through your work a little bit, and tie off, and you will be finished with your project. And we'll be back to look at the finished product. Okay, so I went ahead and finished my end embellishments, as you can see, and sewed back through, tied my thread off, sewed my tail through, clipped it off, tied it off, all those good things. And this is the finished project. Now, it isn't exactly like Joan did hers, but it's fairly close, and it's just what I could work out from what I looked at the picture. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this project, and I hope you get a bunch of crystal and try one. It looks really pretty on. Have fun. Bye-bye.